Hello, welcome to Kitchen Basics 101, where I teach you the bare bone basics as if you've never cooked a day in your life from the perspective of a mom. I've already made this for you before, but I've missed you guys so much. My entire family had COVID. My whole household has been sick for like 2 weeks. We're still like struggling with it, to be honest. But my kids asked because we haven't had a home cooked meal in like weeks. So my kids were like, can you please just make Nona nuggets? So here we are. So I've beaten an egg. I actually beaten 2 eggs here in this bowl. And I've hunked up some chicken breasts into like large nuggets. And I'm just going to throw them here into the egg wash. This is like my kids' just like comfort meal, I guess. Their go-to. And they're just like, Mom, I'm just hungry for a mom meal and I want Nona nuggets. So here we are. I've made them for you before, but I figured never hurts to make them again. This is just the easy way that I do it. I pop it all here in the egg wash and I give it a toss with one hand. And then on my plate, I use a paper plate just because it's easier to throw out the chicken guts. I like these 4C seasoned breadcrumbs. I used to use Progresso, but I actually find I like these better. Take out a chicken and we let the excess egg drip off. Okay, this is important for keeping your breading on. And then I toss it in the breading. This is my clean hand. And I give it a nice bread. And I also always pat it down. So I put the breadcrumbs on and then I pat them on firmly. Okay, then we shake off the excess and we lay them here to rest. That's why I have out this parchment paper. This is an important step. So my son doesn't come home for like 30 more minutes, but I'm prepping them now because it's important to let them rest for a little bit. Let all of the sort of breading stick to them before you fry them up. So I always do them maybe like 20, 30 minutes ahead of time. If you're doing them for a party, you could do them hours ahead of time. You could put them in the fridge. You could prep them the night before even if you wanted. And the breading will just stick better if it's had time to sort of chill out, okay? Another thing I do after each one is I shake the plate so that the breadcrumbs get all flat. And I want to mention that once you have used these breadcrumbs, right, you've taken the raw chicken, the raw egg, you've put it on here and you've breaded, whatever's on this plate has to go in the trash. You cannot save these breadcrumbs. You cannot use them again. You cannot use them in a couple of hours. Whatever has touched to this raw chicken, you have to throw out. So put a little breadcrumbs on the plate, do your thing, and then if you don't have enough, add more and add more. Pour more into the plate. Because just know, whatever's left over on this plate, you have to throw in the trash. You cannot reclaim, okay? So that's important, food safety. As I was making these, I was thinking to myself, because I've made them for you before, I'm going to show you me frying them up after they rest for a minute. But you could do this exact same thing with a pork chop. I would cut it thin, bread it in the exact same way and fry it up in a pan. You could do this with a pounded steak or a cube steak. You could do this breading procedure with fish. You could do it with just about anything. Now, I personally don't like the flour, egg, flour, breadcrumb, whatever. I think that when you add the extra layers of flour, it just makes your breading not stick. Your breading just becomes separate from your meat. I much prefer just egg and breadcrumb, and this is how I would do a pork chop. This is how I would do a cube steak. I would just dip it in the egg, put it in the breadcrumb, and then let it rest for 20 minutes before I fry it up. I always do half olive oil and half butter, or if you need a higher searing temperature, which you don't here because you want it cooked all the way through to the middle, so you're going to do this on medium high heat, then you could use oil with a higher smoke point. I like to mix butter and oil because you get the delicious butter flavor and the oil helps the butter to not burn. So that's how I do it. But you could do this, like I said, pork chop, cube steak, anything really, fish. Like, this is a basic breading procedure you could use for anything. So it's always good to do Nona nuggets again. We've got our butter and our olive oil hot here, and we're just going to place away from ourselves our little chickens, right? This is half and half olive oil and butter. We never want to crowd our pan, so I'm just going to do a little bit at a time, and I would call this a shallow fry. So there's like, a good amount of oil in here, but it's not a deep fry. And we don't want this to foam. So I'm getting it hot, but we're probably going to cook around medium heat. I'm going to do 2-3 minutes on one side, and then I'm going to flip over and I'll show you what they look like. But you can see the oil comes part way up. And if you're uncomfortable about chicken temperatures or you're worried if it's cooked or whatever, get yourself a meat thermometer, stick it into the middle of the meat, and you want 165 for chicken. Okay, that's the temperature you're looking for. I've made these 20,000 times, so I'm not going to do that, but I am going to keep an eye on them, and I'm just going to make them get crispy golden brown on this side, and then we'll flip them over. If you start to get smoke here, or there's burning, smoke coming out of here, your heat is too high. Turn your heat down. If this foams up any more than this, your heat is too high. Turn your heat down. Lower and slower because you want it to get completely cooked through before it gets brown and crispy on the outside. I get questions all the time on the temperature, but it depends. How big's your pan? How big's your burner? What kind of burner are you using? Gas? Are you using electric? What's more important is to look at what's going on in the pan here, right? No smoke. We don't have excessive foaming of our butter. I don't see any burnt butter solids yet, so we're good. If we start to see any of that, then we'll turn the heat down. Okay, it's been 4 minutes. Look at that beautiful golden brown, right? We're gonna flip it over. And we're gonna do another 3 or 4 minutes on this side. I do love to use a fork to turn them because it helps keep the breading on. Just make sure not to scratch your pan. If you scratch your pan, you're gonna hurt your surface. So you saw I flipped them without touching the pan. All right, it's been another 3 minutes, and you can really tell that these have firmed up a lot. That's another way to tell that they're cooked all the way through. Look at that golden brown. So we're gonna pop them out onto a paper towel. They're still steamy hot. You're gonna sprinkle them with a little bit of salt. And I'm gonna do another batch. I'm gonna add a little more olive oil and a little bit of butter. I'm gonna do another one.